Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this session of our K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. K-12 BITS is a new training initiative to help augment your internal training efforts. We're harnessing our community of K-12 Blackboard schools, and BITS will share top strategies and pedagogy for both increasing teacher efficiency and improving learning outcomes. K-12 BITS is free, and it's easy to participate, and it's available for teachers, academic leaders, and administrators. My name is Colleen Smith, and I'm with our K-12 marketing team here at Blackboard. I'm serving today as our moderator for the session. Katie Gallagher, for those of you guys who have joined us before, is out today, but we'll be back for our next session, which we'll go over in just a slide or two. I'm thanking Autumn Taylor, who is our director of K-12 product marketing team. She is here to help today. And we also, unfortunately, it's not Misty joining us, but we have Claudine, who is a member of our solutions engineers team. If you have any questions, you just go ahead and enter them in the chat or the Q&A window today, and one of the three of us or all three of us will help take care of those for you. Each of our webinars in this series is recorded, and you can easily find any of those recordings on our Blackboard YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/blackboardtv. After the presentation, you'll receive a recording and some of the presentation slides. And we also will be sending an invitation for you to participate in our professional learning community. It's taking place in our Core Sites site, and it's designed to help augment this series and create an avenue for ongoing collaboration and dialogue. So when you receive that invitation, if you could just accept it and join us, participate in that new online PLC that we've started. All of our Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series webinars are free, and they're open to everyone. You just take a look for our K-12 icon to identify these special sessions. And actually, if you go to blackboard.com/bits, that's where you'll find a full listing of all of the Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series offerings. You'll also see we've got a new look and feel to our website today, so I encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't seen it yet already. Our next session is going to be Empowered Blended Learning in K-12, and that's going to be on June 2nd at 3:30 with Dr. Sherry Merritt Newman and Dr. Corey De La Fuente from the University School of Nova Southeastern University in Florida. I'm excited to introduce today, we've got Larry Fallon from Arlington Public Schools, who's going to lead us in What's in Your Blender, professional development for teachers on Blackboard to flip, blend, and go virtual using Blackboard in their classroom. Arlington Public Schools is fully engaged in developing Virtual APS to meet new state requirements for all students to have passed a fully virtual course before graduation. To provide teachers with tools to implement this, we run cohorts through an 8-week facilitated fully online course that covers everything required and models the tools they will use with their students. Graduates are then enrolled in a BB organization that becomes their PLC and furthers the cause with best practices and shared unit and lesson plans. This process is going to be presented today and discussed. And so with that, I will introduce Larry Fallon, who is he is an Instructional Technology Coordinator for Arlington County Public Schools since 2000 and 2001 school year. His role is to provide professional development opportunities for teachers, helping them integrate instructional technology into whatever they teach. He does this in groups with department teams and through individual coaching as needed. Prior to his work in Arlington, he served as Director of Information Technology for 2 satellite campuses of Johns Hopkins University at Rockville, Maryland, and DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. His classroom teaching experience was at the Sandy Springs Friends School in Albany, Maryland, and we are very excited to have him here today with us. So I will go ahead and with that, turn it over to Larry.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully I've unmuted my
You're all set, Larry. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thanks very much for that introduction. And it's exciting to be here and to talk to all of you about the process of professional development in working with teachers in Arlington. To date, we've had 5 cohorts of 24 or so teachers, and it's a fairly rigorous class. So of the 110 or so people who have registered through the 5 cohorts. We've had 88 complete all of the requirements. And I believe to date 7 of those have done the additional work required to receive 3 graduate credits for that work. So it is quite an intensive course, and I really enjoy facilitating it because the discussions are tremendous. There's some contact information for me up there. I've also provided Colleen with a PDF of links that we use during the course to move through the 7 sessions. And let me start with basically where we start, which is a week-long discussion of the spectrum and the strategies associated with where a person might find themselves on that spectrum. These graphics and some of these grids and charts will all be found on those within those links that will get shared to you. And you're welcome to email me, and I can reply back with that document as an attachment. So having the teachers take some time to look at what they're currently doing is clearly the best place to start. Many of our teachers have been integrating digital resources for quite some time, and often the discussion starts with, you know, when's the first time you flipped your classroom, or when's the first time you blended a digital resource, and how did that work, and did you continue to do it, and how are you improving that based on outcomes with your students? So this provides us with a framework to help them think about moving from wherever they find themselves on this spectrum, from instruction taking place mostly in the classroom through substantial required online components and into mostly or fully online with some time required in a computer lab or classroom. We have, I'm getting ahead of myself if I start talking about what the classes we've already have running like this. So let me move through my slides here and remember where I am. So this is basically how we get to a fully virtual at APS, and as was mentioned in the introduction, teachers are enrolled in the professional learning community after completion. But the process requires them to be enrolled in the cohort where they are enrolled as a student, and then at the 3rd week, they are also enrolled in a practice course where they have teacher privileges. So all of the things that we've been talking about and all of the things that they've been experiencing as modeled by me, taking them through documents, taking them through, leading them through various media, YouTube videos, and looking at other resources can then be applied in a Blackboard course where no one is going to see what a mess they made. And believe me, with 20 or so teachers, all with teacher rights in one course, adding a minimum of 5 different components, it can be pretty interesting. But it's a great opportunity to just put things in there, edit them, take them out, work with it again. This slide shows basically the pacing through which we take 1 week at a time to look at the models of blended learning, talk about engaging students in the blended learning community, using the course management systems instructor tools. So this is a point where this format could be installed in any content management system. For our purposes in Arlington, week 4 is all about Blackboard, and it's all about how to manipulate the structural tools, how to add content, how to organize content, how to make that content communicate with the gradebook, how to work with the discussion board, adding topics and threads, and it becomes often the aha moment for many of the teachers in Arlington who may have had some resistance to spending a lot of time on Blackboard because they find out that, aha, I can do this, or aha, this is actually a lot easier than I imagined it would be, and the fear factor goes down, and we really start to see them taking those leaps that they would like to have taken in their classrooms all along, but Blackboard solves so many of the communications issues and solves so many of the navigation format issues that if a teacher were to try to do this on their own, they would spend a lot of time communicating how to get there, what to do once you're there, and it's all in one place with Blackboard. So I'm sure that's true with Moodle's other content management systems, but we find that this week 4 is a good place to insert this step in the process because up to this point, they've had to react as students without a lot of focus on how did that get put there? Why is it where it is now? So they can experience what the student experiences and then get to level 4 and start putting things in as a teacher with some grounding in how this is going to look and function for a student. So the session 5 is kind of a metacognitive approach to working with discussions. They're up to session 5. They've been just kind of reacting, putting a substantive post in about whatever the topic was in a previous session and responding to at least other posts with 2 substantive posts. Many teachers write much more than this. But in week 5, we give them a number of scenarios. And those scenarios range from inappropriate language, off-content chatting. There's 5 different areas, and they're not all coming to me right at the moment, but then the teachers respond with what they think would be the best approach to communicating with the student, assuming that their only communication is through the discussion board. The Managing Diverse Learning Needs is a broad exploration of a lot of Web 2.0 tools out there that can enhance different special needs interaction with content, whatever the content. And as I said, all these links that the teachers explore within these sessions will be in that PDF document. In assessing students, there is a direct examination of the value of rubrics, and the teachers are challenged to create rubrics, especially rubrics that will enhance group work and enhance student responses to the discussion boards. Back in session 3, I should have mentioned that in engaging the students in the blended learning community, there are a number of discussion posts focused around the value of using groups to connect with both the teacher, but more importantly, the other online learners. And even in a class that's mostly face-to-face, there are a lot of anecdotal reports that having students respond through group work online often gets a lot of great content out of students who are reluctant to offer content in other formats. So the final, the submission teachers have been working on all along is a unit plan in which they've developed a blended unit and lesson plans that support that blended unit. Now, one of the, let me just skip back here for a minute. Way back in session 2, in models of blended learning, the participants to app link is there on the slide. I'm not sure if you're going to get this slide deck or not, and if this will be clickable.
Yep, we'll be able to share the slides afterwards, Larry, so that they can have that link. Hi there, Larry. We seem to have lost audio. I don't know. Are you able to hear me okay? Sorry about that for the group.
So, Colleen, we can hear you, but I think we've lost Larry's audio.
Okay, let me see if I can send him a message. Maybe he looks like he's still in the session here.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear
you.
Thanks,
we
Larry.
Can hear you now. Wonderful.
Okay. Sorry, I think my phone timed out. We had been on for quite a while.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. I believe I was talking about this app that teachers get an empty room to fill with their imagined blended learning environment. And it's a very productive conversation to start off asking teachers what do they think a good sign that they are integrating technology could be. And often they come back with very great, very wonderful responses about the resources they have the kids connect with, approaches they use to motivate their connection to content beyond the school day, and then, have them use this app and start thinking about what happens when they put a bookcase in front of the power outlets and the data ports in the wall. And what happens when everybody stops sitting in rows and starts sitting around tables and interacting in small groups. And, then the peer teaching that can happen when those small groups have access to the projection board, and how the classroom arrangement itself can lead to greater integration of digital resources. So many of the teachers enjoy spending time with this and will submit multiple plans And many of them take the plans to their principal and their technology coordinator in their school and begin working right away with how they can get rid of all of the little desks and rows, how they can get more tables, how they can move things around in the room so that charging stations can be set up so the devices are always charged up when the students come in and need to use them. So if you're in a position where you work with teachers thinking about working more digital resources into whatever they teach, a good place to start is with this app and get them thinking about how their room is set up. So as I mentioned, the discussion is very rich. As you can see from some of these numbers, if they're legible on your screen, these are total posts in a week. And the reports that Blackboard provides to the facilitator, to the instructor, and the new navigation bar to track posts waiting to be read and facilitating the response to posts as they come in has been a real blessing to me and my fellow ITC, Diane Coggins, who also we alternate on these cohorts. It has freed up a tremendous amount of time to be able to track what the participants are doing, to be able to get right into a thread and offer either a supportive view, an alternate view, ask a challenging question, or answer a challenging question from time to time. Although for the most part, I like to see how the teachers answer each other's questions before I jump in, and I don't want to be seen as the all-knowing sage behind the curtain. So it's important to let the conversation develop and to guide the conversation with other interesting questions. As I mentioned, the successful completion of all the cohort requirements allows the teachers to be enrolled in the blended classroom teachers community, and they, to be honest with you, have not yet. This is the first year that this community has been available, but it is a first of all and initially a great way for me to communicate with every teacher that has completed the cohort requirements, because I can use the tools in Blackboard to email those enrolled in this course and feed information to them, let them know about updates, and just basically remind them that this is a resource that's here for them. So of the 88 teachers who have completed the course so far, we have, they're teaching Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, German, Latin, economics and personal finance, health class, SOL remediation, one arts teacher, a music teacher, who's done amazing work with strings and YouTube videos to help the students practice. And then the other ITCs, the Instructional Technology coordinators around the county who have completed this cohort, are getting together to develop a site that will be hopefully accessed by teachers countywide as a, not so much an anytime, anywhere training utility, but a resource where, first of all, what's presented follows the model that is developed as a person completes this cohort, with adding content, adding content relevant assignments and links, other media to demonstrate how others have used this feature or a facet of whatever's being presented, and a discussion board to facilitate communication amongst people who have completed this online portion, this online presentation of professional development. So at this point, I'm going to, if I can get the link, Colleen, to be able to share my desktop. Either I've hidden it from myself or I don't see it.
I've got you as a presenter there. You should be able to go ahead and hit share.
I see. Here, okay, I see. I've got it.
Perfect.
And hopefully this is...
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. So this is a fairly narrow, this is a login that I have that helps me when I'm helping develop courses. I have a separate login on Blackboard that allows me to basically just be in as a teacher, and this one gives me some more administrative tools. I think what I'd like to do is start here with Ms. Minahan's HILT A. HILT in Arlington stands for High Intensity Language Training, and the HILT A group are her English language learners at the lowest level. They have the smallest vocabulary. Many of them are very recent immigrants. We have students from probably 40 different countries around the world. One of the initial activities is, in her class, is often to go up to a world map and put a colored pin with your name on a little tag where you came from, and it's amazing the distribution of students from all over the world. So she starts with the grammar in context pretest to try to get a feel for if the students can have enough language to be able to follow instructions and use the resources in this Blackboard course. It usually doesn't take long because many students come with basic technology skills in their own language and can learn and persevere in learning what to click on, and they help each other in wonderful ways. What I'd like to show you now is this Unit 2, Hidden Forces. So again, we've got content. She's built content that is very specific and has very clear content-related activities. So she's using the embedding tools to be able to embed Quizlets. And this is a wonderful tool. It has a lot of different learning modes. You can test flashcards, so you can click to flip, so you get a definition. I won't go through too much more of this. It's probably very familiar to everybody here. She uses Voki a lot, and this is a great way to extend the learning beyond the school day, because the students can, hopefully you're hearing that.
A large family or a small family, and then.
So hopefully you heard that, some of that. Then the instructions continue. She has them post most of this in their Google Docs account. APS being having its own education domain. And she, of course, has curly red hair and wears glasses. So it's a great way, as I said, to extend this learning beyond the school day and still have a connection with the teacher's voice and the content that they experience during the day in the classroom. Moving on here to our music teacher. I think she's done a tremendous job here. I'm just going to play a short section of this one because I think it clearly demonstrates her enthusiasm for being able to integrate this kind of media in what she's trying to do with her string students.
Hey, Larry, we can't hear the sound. At least I'm not able to hear it. I'm not sure if anyone else can.
Okay. I'm sorry the audio is not working that well. If I do the audio any differently, I end up having tremendous echoes, so I won't subject you all to that. But to give a better overview, rather than jumping right into the media, you can see the communication aspect of this, the information for parents, the sheet music that the students can download, so there's no more, I left my sheet music at home, I can't practice. Student videos, she has recorded herself playing some short piano segments that the students then can practice playing the violin as an accompaniment, and just generally has done a great job with all of this. The next piece is a health class, and I think Ms. Millen has done a tremendous job with integrating all of the features as they were presented throughout the cohort. The announcements are kept timely, semester by semester. She first went live with this back in February, so these things are she's moving right along with this course. The items that you're seeing here with the strike-through recited are only visible to me and to her and to us, but what her students see is basically just the assignments and the discussions, which take them through a tremendous set of resources on all of these topics, and then link them to the discussion topics and threads that provide the very vibrant discussion that can arise between students when they're not shy, they're not afraid of standing up in a classroom and being seen as saying something unpopular. They tend to more directly express what they're actually thinking about these topics. A lot of good conversation has come out around bullying, around eating disorders, drug use, and you know, sometimes there's a little too much sharing, but it's better than not sharing and having and feeling ashamed of what you think no one else is going through. They often talk about how they can see that it's not just their problem. So this is in our first semester with the online health class, which is filling a tremendous need in Arlington because students have to get this credit to graduate, and inevitably there's somebody in the last semester. It's a one-semester course. Inevitably there's a student who has came into Arlington late or been in and out of school and missed this credit, and it's one of the few things left that they need to accomplish. The last thing I'd like to show you is the site that the other instructional technology coordinators and I are working on, collaborating on to develop something. Our timeline has us working on this through the summer and having this hopefully ready the first week that the teachers come back for their in-service week in the last week of August. And some of what will be here will be professional development developed by ITCs for their teachers that return to their school. but then it will be also posted here as a reference that they can always get back to. So our initial division is in the navigation bar is how to whatever on Blackboard. And the first few things are updates in Service Pack 14, which we just added over spring break or possibly winter break, working with tutorials in atomic learning, and then topics that teachers would be interested in. And the initial division there is hardware how-tos and software how-tos. And all of this is being developed now, so wherever there's a hardware how-to, such as interactive whiteboards, there's a software how-to to learn to manage the software associated with whatever interactive whiteboard they have in their room. And we have primarily smartboards and Promethean boards. So hopefully this will be a well-developed site, course that teachers can self-enroll in, and guided by their technology coordinator in their building, can come back to as often as they need, and hopefully develop some interactivity with technology coordinators from all over the county, teachers from all over the county, and expand the knowledge base as they contribute to discussions that are related to each one of these sections within this course. So I believe I've shown you the items I had thought I would offer, and I'm actually a much better discussion facilitator than I am a presenter. Lecturing just has never really been my forte. I've always enjoyed the collaboration process and the discussion of building things together. So most of the professional development sessions I do, I tend to present for 10 or 15 minutes, and then participants have 15, 20, or 30 minutes to try to build on their own what we just talked about, and then share questions, share approaches to solving those problems, and then move further along the path to whatever the goal of the professional development is. That's one of the reasons I think this format of the 7 sessions works so well for me to facilitate that, allowing teachers to contemplate the media presented to them and to develop their own responses. I think I can get back to that pretty quickly. And it builds in an organic way from understanding where they are, moving through the literature on this whole process of flipping, blending, working with rethinking how information is presented to students, how students work with information, how the value in having these alternate and additional and extended opportunities to connect with content. This, then moves into managing all the diverse needs and then assessing the students. So, any questions?
Thank you, Larry. This has been a lot of great information and really interesting to see how they're starting to incorporate some of the content into their courses. I bet, for some of those videos that we weren't able to share, we'll be able to share those with the group after the session in our follow-up, just so that they have a link so that they can see that example. I know that you were really excited by that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. I encourage you to send to all participants so that we can all join in the discussion here. We do have a couple questions that came in privately, Larry, so we'll go ahead and start. And the first question is, have you noticed that teachers are hesitant at first, or do they sort of dive right in? What's the process like for them?
Yes, there's teachers' initial motivation to do this process can be all over the map, and some just really want the 48 hours of continuing education units because they're up for recertification, and they think that they're going to, jump into a quick 8-week course and have their 48 hours and done with it. And then they see the assignment list and start looking at all the reading, and then some of them drop out because this course does take a lot of commitment. So generally what happens by the second or third week is we've got a core group of teachers who have been, to some degree or another, blending digital resources into the classes and thinking about flipping and thinking about blending. I mean, the first time I experienced blended learning or flipped learning, I didn't even realize it. I was in 4th grade and my teacher said, read chapter 5 before you come to class tomorrow. The thing that is so exciting about the digital resources is connecting with those students with all the media that they find attractive anyway. So the motivation definitely is interesting to watch as from where we begin, as they learn more about the content management system tools, and as the discussions drive them toward a better understanding of the content that they teach, the students that they're teaching, and the different ways that they can connect their students with content. So I think that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Is this course offered to all ranges of teachers, whether it's elementary, middle, and high school teachers, or just at the high school level?
It's all levels and all content areas. We also have specialists and curriculum supervisors. We have also had a few administrators. We love it when we get a curriculum supervisor and some administrators in there, some assistant principals and principals. It really helps the teachers at those sites to get the kind of support they need for the resources that can make this happen.
Great. And what has generally been the feedback for teachers that have completed these courses?
Very positive. They have, as I said, had tremendous aha moments with the content management system itself. So they then become our best recruiters to get other teachers in their sites to look for the next cohort that's offered. I feel like we're running a little bit of a guerrilla campaign here to get core groups of teachers working together within different sites, helping and supporting each other as they do more with blended, and then they find ways to share resources like an iPad card or a Chromebook card or time in a computer lab, and with their technology coordinator to focus on getting the resources that they need to be able to make these resources more available. Our world language situation is pretty well developed. There are distance learning labs in the major high schools and middle schools. So that's kind of already built in or built out, I'm not sure which. So that program is moving right along, and the support from the administration is, it's generally on an upward curve. They like what they're seeing. There are times when they it feels like the support is waning, but then, you know, you talk to the administrators, I'm talking about central office now, and they come back with, you know, no, this is good. We're moving forward. And the state of Virginia, the State Department of Education of Virginia has helped the situation by making an online credit a requirement for every student that graduates from a Virginia public school. So there's a groundswell of ninth graders who come in every year who are going to have that checkbox. They're going to have to have taken an online course, and our superintendent has made it clear that he would like for that online course to be facilitated by a highly qualified Arlington teacher on our Arlington content management system, which is Blackboard. So I think there's good movement here, and I think to really satisfy the need for credentialed, qualified, certified online teachers, we're going to have to ramp up our cohort process to get more than about 40 to 60 teachers a year through this process. But we have a number of them waiting in the wings, hoping to be able to facilitate at least 3, possibly 5 fully online sections, which is seen right now as the equivalent of having a 5-period day teaching face-to-face. So we're in an interesting transition period right now here in Arlington.
Very interesting. Another question here is, what sort of changes have you seen in teachers' instructional practices, and then have you gotten any direct feedback from the students that are now in those new blended learning courses, and have teachers implementing some of the things that you guys are working on in the cohorts?
Well, I know I have heard a lot anecdotally from the parents and students of the music course. They love it, and they say that they've never seen their kids practice as much because, they're primarily elementary school kids, and they see this as getting more computer time because they can log in and they can be on Blackboard and they can show their parents what they've learned in school, and they can practice along with the teacher again at home. The world language classes are predominantly very positive. We do have some outliers there. We have some students who miss the daily connection with a face-to-face teacher, and they let that be known. However, in Arlington, we just don't have enough Arabic and Chinese and Japanese teachers to have one in every class, in every school, teaching 5 periods a day with only 3 to 5 students in a classroom. So it's really only economically feasible to teach those languages through distance learning. And we have local facilitators who are not fluent in those languages, but who are very practiced and accomplished in helping them with doing everything they need to do on Blackboard so that they're not sitting there lost, not knowing what to click on next, or not knowing where to get the foundational resources that they need, or the captured lecture to be able to catch up to what they might have missed. So we are experimenting more with using Blackboard Collaborate as a lecture capture tool, and there's some varied degree of success with that. I think this is the kind of thing we need to practice with more and look at ways to build in more of what's happening on the Blackboard site and in the Collaborate record session so that it's fully comprehensible by anybody who might have missed that class. So, it's pretty much overwhelmingly a success. There are those outliers, as I mentioned.
Thanks. We also have a question in the Q&A. Do you use Explore to share resources? Explore
is something that I've been exploring myself, and I've been working on working up a tutorial to get more teachers interested. It's certainly something that comes up in that fourth session because suddenly teachers within the cohort feel empowered to click on everything and try everything. And there are, interesting resources out there, everything from the Khan Academy on out that can be then embedded in your course. I think one of the things that may be limiting some teachers thinking about fully online extension of what they're doing is kind of takes us back to teachers wanting to be in control of content. The textbook that everyone's using is loaded on Blackboard. The content that the teachers put on there, the tests that the teachers put on there that are developed through the test generator from question banks in the textbook, there's a lot of knowns there. And putting a link through Explore into a course and then to some degree not being confident that that's going to be there when the student clicks on it, or that might change between the time the teacher looked at it and the time the student looked at it. So I think those are things that will be resolved as we gain more experience with that.
Are you currently using the content management system to keep track of student portfolios?
Again, we're looking forward to the next service pack upgrade to get better use out of portfolios. That's definitely something the world language teachers want to develop, and I know our social studies group, who has the economics and personal finance classes through social studies, and in September we're going to be piloting a fully virtual USVA history course, and portfolios are going to be very important for them. So that's a step we're going to be taking over the summer and more fully integrating that feature.
Great. All righty. Well, if anybody, are there any other questions? Go ahead and enter them into the chat. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Larry, for sharing today. Just want to remind everybody that BB World 2014 is coming soon. We actually just launched our K-12 session sneak peek, so if you want to take a little look at what sessions are going to be offered this year, we've got that up on bbworld.com where you can learn more. We've also just announced that Joy Ito is going to be our opening keynote this year, so some great stuff. If you take a look at our Blackboard blog, you'll see a couple points of what he'll be covering at BB World. We're really looking forward to that. And if you register by May 15th, you're entered to win a free hotel stay. So encourage you to take a look at bbworld.com, see what's coming. There's a lot of great things in store for K-12 this year. And with that, I will also, we've got Katie Gallagher still, her image is with us here, but if you have any questions or want to suggest a topic, we're opening up submissions for the fall of our K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. So if you reach out to Katie and have something that you'd like to discuss, we are always open to getting you on the schedule. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been
Thanks,
good.
Larry.
Bye-bye.
Bye.